Alrighty, y'all. Well, let's go ahead and get started. My name is Taylor Bingham. Welcome to Career Guidance Part 4. So, to those of y'all that are in the live chat, you can actually go ahead and put your ID in the chat box. And that way we can take track of who's here. And also, I think this one you can get a gift card possibly from Student Life. So, go ahead and put that ID in the chat box so we can keep track that you're here. If you're watching this retroactively on YouTube, we are so glad that you're watching. We hope you enjoy and can find out some more about yourself. So, like I said, put that ID in the chat box. Also, if you have any questions as we're going through everything, please put them in the chat and we will talk about them at the end. So, let's go ahead and dive on in. I'm going to go ahead and turn off my video so that way we can look at actually, Jenna, can you give me the ability to screen share? That would be lovely. You still there, Jenna? Perfect. Wonderful. You are fantastic.
Perfect.
Alrighty. Perfect. Thank you. So, alrighty, y'all. So, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you guys. So, we're going to go ahead and talk about part 2, success is finding your ideal career. So, if you haven't watched part 1 yet, I highly encourage you to go back on YouTube. Jenna just posted that. So, the part 1 is already up. So we talked about what is my plan, the my plan setup, kind of why would we even do career guidance in the first place? Why would we need to do all this work? Why would we need to research this? All that fun stuff. Also how to make an account, get your account set up, all that fun stuff. So now what we're going to do is we're actually going to do a general my plan interpretation, which will be really cool. So if you haven't taken your test yet though, that's totally fine. You can actually still be a part of this presentation without that, without have taking those assessments yet. So, but what we will do is, so what we're going to talk about is the personality part, interests, skills, values, and then the composite score at the end. And we're going to go through each section and really dive into who you are and what you can do and find out more about you specifically. And this one's going to be a little bit interactive, so I will be asking questions. So hopefully you're ready to participate in the chat or in the comment section later on YouTube. So what I want you to do is we have some interpretation documents on our website. So actx.edu/career/myplan. So you can go download these documents that we'll be using the self-assessment gathering map in this presentation, and then the occupation comparison chart and the benefit cost analysis form in our next presentation. So I'm going to do a new share and just share screen 1 with you guys. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually show y'all how to go download those. So if I click this link, it should open up for me right here. And then we can go to actx.edu/career/myplan. And then you can scroll down and download it right here, the self-assessment gathering map. And then it downloads as a PDF, which then you can mess with it. You can change it if you need to, you can fill it in. I usually encourage y'all to print it out and then you can write on it. And so this is what it looks like once you get it all downloaded. So like I said, we're going to do personality, interests, skills, values, and then we'll touch on preferred focus toward the end. So let's start with personality. This is the really fun one. And actually a lot of students have heard of this type of assessment, so it'll be fun to dive in. So with personality, there's 4 different parts. So the first one is extroverted versus introverted. And so I like these pictures. Extroverted is like talking with people. Introverts, it's like unite separately in your own homes. I thought those were kind of funny for sure. But what extroversion is, it's not only, talking to people or wanting to be by yourself. That's not really it. What it is where you draw your energy from, and then also where your attention is naturally focused. So if you're here live, what I want you to do is I want you to tell me whenever you're just like waiting at a doctor's office or waiting for an appointment, or you're just kind of hanging out waiting for something, what are you usually doing? So I'll give you a second. Go ahead and put that in the chat box. When you're waiting on something, what are you usually doing? I'm looking. I'm ready, y'all. Usually sit and play on my phone or observe my surroundings. Good. Yeah. Great. I like play on your phone. Absolutely. So I usually hear that a lot whenever I do these appointments. It's like, well, I'll play on my phone. So I want them to listen to music. Awesome. So playing on your phone, maybe looking around, listening to music. The reason I like to ask this question is because it answers where our focus kind of naturally lies. For my extroverts, if they're playing on their phone or they've got their phone like this, but they're not only on their phone, but they might be looking around, right? And then kind of back to their phone, scroll a little bit, and then back up, look around, maybe look at people, and then back down. My introverts, on the other hand, if they're playing on their phone, they're kind of just sucked into their phone. Little bit, just more like, this is what I'm going to focus on. It's more internal, not really outward focus, more inward, processing what they're thinking. Also, what introverts typically do, they might just sit to themselves or, play on their phone, or they might just kind of hang out. But again, they're more that inward focus, while extroverts more have that external focus. Also, extroverts can tend to be, sometimes not always, be external processors, while introverts can be like internal processors, where they can like internalize different things and process that way. Well, extroverts, they more might need to talk it out or do something external to their body where they're outside. And also, it's where they draw their energy. So that might be, say you have a super long day, say at school or at work or family with friends, or say you're just pooped, like you are wiped out. Well, an introverted person, they might just be good, chilling by themselves, maybe watching TV. And every person likes that too. Don't get me wrong. I love a good Netflix show. But what I am saying is that extroverts, they might be okay to even go hang out with friends for a little bit after their long day. Like, yeah, that might sound like a fun idea. But introverts, it's going to be a hard time to get them out of the house if they're really tired. So if we're looking at our self-assessment gathering map, which we'll look at the end, this, you would decide if you wanted to do the E or the I. Now we're going to go ahead and move to the next part of personality, which is sensing versus intuitive. So again, I'm going to ask for feedback here. I want y'all to tell me about this picture. That's it. So look at the picture and tell me about the picture. And you can go ahead and put in the chat box. Ready. Calming. Good. Okay. What else? Tell me about the picture. I'll wait for one more and then I'll go ahead and go through it. See, calming, green, there's trees, right? There's a pathway. Good. So with this picture, the reason I like to show this big, good, absolutely. So the reason I like to bring this activity up whenever I'm doing these interpretations one-on-one or in a group setting is because this is how we're pulling in information. So when I ask you to tell me about the picture, it's very vague. And typically my sensors, they hate this question because it's vague. It's intentionally vague because my sensors, they all ask the question, they all answer the question very similarly. It's green, there's a pathway, there's trees, there's maybe some dandelions on the side of the road, there's like an arch of trees, very concrete. Sensors, they like to pull in their information and specific questions to specific answers. My intuitive people, on the other hand, they'll say calming or peaceful, or, oh, this looks like a fun place to jog, or, oh, this reminds me of a trip that I took one time, or, oh, that reminds me of this movie I saw. So intuitive, what they do is they are pulling in information with the big picture. So sensors, they're very concrete, on the ground, very much sensing, while intuitive, they are very big picture. They want to look at everything else going around besides just this one picture. And no two intuitive answers sound the same. I have another picture that I use for this activity sometimes, and it's of mountains. And I had one intuitive person, they were like, oh, that looks like the Misty Mountains from Lord of the Rings. And I was like, what? Like, oh my gosh, I would have never thought of that. Which that just means their brain is going somewhere. And both of these are great. They're both super, super needed. Sensors and intuitive, both. Sensors just prefer specific answers to specific questions. And intuitive people, they prefer to look at the big picture. So let's go ahead and move to a continuing personality, which is thinking versus feeling. So thinking is, typically what I'd ask here is think of a specific decision you've had to make recently. So I want to ask you to think in the chat box, but think in your noggin, think of a decision you've had to make in the, recently. It can be tiny, it can be big, just a recent decision. I had a student the other day that they told me they decided to go get wings for dinner. That was their decision. And I said, great, tell me about your process in making that decision. And she's like, well, it was like 50-cent wing night or 99-cent wing night. So I went and got wings. And I was like, that is an excellent example. And it'll make us want wings for lunch, right? So what that type of decision-making process was thinking. So people who do have the thinking preferred of making decisions, they are looking at logic, data, facts, and then done. That's pretty much what they're looking at. Wings, they might not have sounded good, might not have been really what she wanted, but they were cheap. That's very much logical. Data, facts, that was a thinking type of decision. Feelers, on the other hand, it's not about making decisions with your heart or with your head. What this is, it's about making decisions with how they affect other people or concerning other people. So some decisions I've heard with the feeler personality would be, well, I decided to go back to school. And so I'd be like, okay, great. Tell me more about that decision that you made. And they would say, well, I know this, my kids can see me do this or that. They can watch me and I can do this for them and for my family. And I think it'll be a really good path for me to take just to help my family. That's very much a feeler decision because they're making that decision in light of their family and who they can help and who they can support with that. So that's a feeler decision. Also, one of my favorite things with feelers is asking, so what do you think? So I do this with my husband all the time. I'm very much a feeler, and I'll go to him and I'll ask, I'll say, hey, I'm kind of thinking this. What do you think? And he's like, oh, well, logically, you should do this, this, and this. And he's super thinker. And I'm just like, I don't know. That's what I want to do. And so I'll go to 6 other people and see what they think. And then typically that's then when I still make my own decision. So it's not really about heart versus head or heart versus head, but what it is about who you consult, who you keep in mind with feelers, and then thinkers are all about that logic, data, facts. Done. Let's go ahead and move into the next part of personality, which is judging or perceiving. So I'm going to give you a scenario, and I want you to think in your head which one sounds more like you. So I'm going to describe 2 students in the same class. So you say you're in class and you get an assignment due at the very end of the semester. You're like, okay, cool, I've got this coming up. It's there, great. Well, student A and student B are in the same class. Student A, they see this assignment and they make a plan. They're like, okay, great, I'm going to plan. I'm going to organize my time. I'm going to have a structure. How am I going to do this? And the student A, they go through that process and they make a plan. They may or may not stick to the plan, but they definitely have a plan. And if they maybe go against it, it might make them a little anxious, maybe just a little bit. But that's the big thing with student A. Still gets it turned in on time, gets a good grade. Student B, they're like, hey, I see this project, but I don't have enough information on this to start yet. So I'm going to wait and I'm going to pull in more information and I'm going to start later. And they do. They both students get it turned in at the same time, get the same exact grade. The big thing is this is how we organize our time. So student A, they had a plan, they had a structure. Student B, not as much. They just wanted to pull in more information before starting on that project or that assignment that they were doing. So I want you to think in your head which one sounds more like you. You can go ahead and put in the chat box A or B. Which one sounds like you? Okay, got a B for sure. A, good. I am myself an A, which is fun. So I saw a few. Awesome. Thank you guys for responding. So student A in this scenario would be the one who falls under judging. And so again, this is judging our time. This is not about being judgmental. This is about judging our time and organizing our time. So J's, they love to have a plan and they like to have structure and be organized, and they may not stick with it. Again, people will joke that P stands for procrastination, and that's not it at all. So both types can definitely procrastinate. But the big thing that differentiates judgers from perceivers is that judgers like to close the loop. You ever had an assignment and you're just like, okay, I'm just going to knock this one out, get this done, and push it off my desk. That's a close the loop mentality for a J. A perceiver might be like, yeah, I'll get to it in a little bit. I want to pull in more information. Or I'm waiting to hear back from this other person to see what they did. So that way I can do this assignment or do this project. I'm going to wait and pull in information. That's a big thing for perceivers. I'll give a fun example here. So I am very much a J. My brother, he is very much a perceiver. So every year, of course, we buy Christmas presents. And I'm usually done October, maybe branching into November, because I like to close the loop, call it a day, get it done, knock it out of the park. Well, my brother calls me on December 23rd And I'm just like, oh no, what's going on here? Well, he calls me. He's super excited. He bought a present for his girlfriend. I say, yay, that's great. December 24th, that exact present goes on sale. And he's just like, dang it, if I would have waited one more day, pulled in a little bit more information, he would have got a better deal. He ended up going back and getting it taken care of and got a discount for it, or got the sale. But that is like the biggest thing for Perceiver is he made the decision, or he finished that project too soon and missed out on some information he could have taken in. So that is judging versus perceiving. Now, if we're on our map, this is where we're at in this upper right-hand corner. So if you're doing this along with me, I encourage you, download it, write it down, whatever you're doing, even if you haven't taken the assessments yet, because you can kind of say, oh, okay, that one sounds like me. So up here, we'd start with the extroverted versus introverted. So of course I highlighted extroverted because that's me. I did this with my assessments. So feel free, please do this with your own. I highlighted 2 on sensing and intuitive. So if I look at my scores, mine's right in the middle. And I agree with both of those very much so. And again, that's one thing I encourage you is push back if you take the assessments, but really pick the ones that fit you most. And if that's 2, that's okay. Then I picked feeling, which, I heard y'all heard definitely my feeling side of things. And then judging, which is, planful, orderly, organized, and decisive. So that's how you would fill out this part of the chart. And then you would put your type. So you'd grab the letter from the beginning of them. I did E, N, F, J. Also, there's a really cool website called 16 Personalities. You can type in your type on that website and actually learn more about yourself, just personalities. Not too much career related, but it's kind of a fun website just to explore. Now let's go ahead and we're going to move into interest. So on interest, so this is a big, busy picture. I'm definitely not going to read all of that text to you, but what I am going to do is I'm going to describe all 6 of these, and then you get to pick 3 for your self-assessment gathering map. And all of this will make sense whenever we get into research, which I'm super excited to share with y'all next week. So on interest, if we'll start at realistic. So realistic, they are very much our hands-on people. They are the people that like to work on plants, animals, machines, all of that kind of thing, are just very up and hands-on. Excuse me. Some of my nurses will even have this one because they might have that social interest, but they want to be up and hands-on with people. So realistic is just very hands-on. So these can be, pretty much anybody who want to work with their hands. My husband's very much in this. He jokes that this is the one that they don't want to talk to people. They'd rather hang out with plants, animals, or things that can't talk to them, which it could be true. It could not. I do think it's kind of funny. Excuse me. So realistic, they are very much hands-on. If we keep going around the hexagon right here to investigative, they are the people that have to know the answer. Have y'all ever been at the table and there's either you or somebody there that they are like the first person to Google something at the table if they don't know the answer? I know I have one of those in my family. They are the investigative people. They have to know the answer. They may or may not want to do anything with it. It's up to them, but they have to know the answer. And that could be a big answer. It could be a small answer. It could be finding a cure for something medical, or it could just be Facebook creeping your friend's new boyfriend because you have to know what they're like or what they do for a living. That's investigative. And all of that shows the investigative interest whenever we're looking at jobs. So you can look at jobs that possibly have that investigative interest. Next, we move around to artistic. So this says creators, but the big thing with artistic, it's having that desire of creative expression. So that doesn't have to be, so if whenever you take the MyPlan assessment, it'll be like, do you want to model, or do you want to, sing, or do you want to do that kind of stuff? That's not exactly what this is with artistic. What it really is it is that freedom of creative expression. And that could be designing a classroom, or that could be making something out of metalwork, or it could just be creating something, or having that ability to create your own schedule. But flexibility, or just not even really flexibility, but more just that freedom of creative expression is really important to people with the artistic interest. We keep moving around our little hexagon. We'll move down to social. People who have the social interest. They are our people. They love helping people and working with people directly. One time I had a person in my office, they're like, well, I like to mow lawns for people. Would that be social? I'm like, well, not exactly. That actually would fall a little bit more under realistic, because you are helping people, but it's not directly, it's more indirectly. So that would be the helpers, or those would be our helpers and our social people. Next is enterprising. People who have that enterprising interest, they love to sell, lead, manage, persuade. I had one student in my office, they said when they were a kid, their favorite catchphrase was, "I'm the boss." And that fits perfectly within enterprising. Typically, people who have the enterprising interest, they either are leading or want to lead at some point in time, or sell or manage, persuade, something to that effect. And then lastly, around our little hexagon is conventional. And they really are our organizers. They like to have a structure and to their position. So, where they know they're going to come in, they're going to do X, Y, Z, very structured. They might like to organize data a little bit, but they really enjoy and have that interest in structure and being organized. So we've gone through all 6 of them. So what I want you to do in the chat box is I want you to tell me just your top 1. Whenever you were hearing me talk, you're like, oh my gosh, that's me. So you can put in the chat box. I'll tell you mine. My number 1 is social. I love to help people. Good. Okay, I see organizers. Awesome. So definitely some kind of falling in that conventional. Let me know your number 1. You're like, yes, that is my interest. Artistic. Absolutely. Yeah, having that freedom of creative expression. Thinkers. Yep, investigative. That one is the person who always has to Google something. It's my dad and my husband. They are insanely investigative. They're like, oh, we got to know. And then it turns into a competition of who can search stuff faster. I hope that makes you laugh because that definitely resonates with my family. So on the self-assessment gathering map, like I said, I filled this out for myself, but again, I highly encourage you to do it for yourself. So what you would have here is, like I said, I'd highlighted social, and then mine is actually enterprising and then artistic. So you get to pick 3. So for others of y'all would highlight thinking or like the investigative, artistic, realistic, conventional, whatever that might be. And then you would put that code in the order you agree with the most on this little line. And then you keep going. Again, this is pulling all of your assessments together into one piece of paper. So now we're going to go ahead and go to skills. So on preferred skills, so we rank these 1 through 8. So being the skill that you want to use or you want to have. The reason we do this is because if you take the skills assessment on My Plan, it's super valuable and it's excellent at ranking your current level of skill. It's super good at doing that. However, a lot of y'all are in school and you're here to gain new skills and learn new skills and continue through school to get more skills. So we look at this and the skills you want to use and the things you're like, yes, that sounds awesome. Like I want to learn that skill or I want to use that skill in my daily life. So you would rank these 1 through 8. So I'll go through each of these. If you need to, you can pause the video retroactively and you can mark these 1 through 8 on your self-assessment gathering map. So the first one is interpersonal teamwork. So this would be working on teams and working really with people on a team on the same level as you or that work with you. The next one's technological. So technological, we're working like technology, computers, all that kind of fun stuff. Oral written communication, so talking to people, writing to people. So that'd be emails, talking, conversing, whether that's with people you work with or people that you're serving, whatever that might be. Leadership management. So these are the people who want to lead, manage, or want to have those skills to lead and manage. Creative inventive. So that's creating, inventing some kind of skills to do that. Organizing, maintaining data. So that would be organizing, maintaining, and preferring to use those skills on a daily basis. Active hands-on, pretty self-explanatory, up, moving around, using your hands in some form or fashion. And then critical thinking, and that one's problem solving. Having those problems that you're just like, I have to figure this out or I need to solve this. So if we go into our map, you would mark these 1 through 8. So like I said, I did those as well. So interpersonal teamwork, communication, creative inventive, leadership management, continuing on. And then 8 was technological for me. I'm fine with computers, but it's definitely not something that I'm going to be like, oh my gosh, that's my world. Again, your map's going to look totally different from mine because it's all about you. And then I encourage you highlight your top 4. And so you'll have your top 4 highlighted. So then we're seeing the things that we need to look for in jobs highlighted that come to our attention first. And it's the same thing with values and focus. So with values, same thing, you do 1 through 6 this time. So there's 6 different values. You can also take this assessment on My Plan, but you can also look at this and rank them yourself without taking it. So there's achievement, support, relationships, independence, working conditions, and recognition. So achievement, people who value achievement, they really value that internal sense of like, yes, I did it. I feel really good about that. I did really well and I achieved something today. And they value that internal sense of achievement. Next is support. People who value support, they value kind of having that backup of their employer or having somebody they can ask if they have a question. Like, hey, can I ask you a quick question? And having that support from somebody either that's a supervisor or on their team, or say they make a bad call at work and they have a company that supports them and supports their decision. The next one's relationships. So people who value relationships, those are those amicable relationships with people at work. So that'd be like maybe going to grab a cup of coffee with somebody at work, or maybe not even that far, just being friends with people at work or saying, hey, how was your weekend? That kind of thing. Next is independence. People who value independence, they highly value that sense of trust where I can be like, hey, Josh, can you go ahead and do this project for me? Awesome, thanks, bye. And then Josh would then have full reign to do whatever he needed to do on that project. And that's independence. And people who value independence love it. People who don't are more like, yeah, I'm okay. Then is working conditions, which I did some rocks here just because I thought it was fun because it shows balance. And that's something that people who value working conditions do definitely need in their workplace, which is balance between having a good pay, good salary, being comfortable with where they're at, within their job security, within like the environment they're in, whether that's inside or outside. And then lastly is recognition. And people who value recognition, they like that supervisor to see what they're doing and have that external recognition of like, yes, I did awesome today because my supervisor told me that I did. Achievement's more of that internal, recognition is more of that external. So I want you to put in the chat box, I want you to put your number one, like make or break value. Like this is the value that it's make or break for you. You do not want to go into a workplace if you didn't have this. Relationships, working conditions, good. Support, absolutely. And that's the thing. So everybody has achievement, absolutely. Everybody has different values that are really important to them because it's what's important to you. And so achievement might be the most important, or support, or working conditions. And those are going to be your make or break. Like, yes, I have to have something like this in my workplace. So then now if we keep going around our little map, you would mark these 1 through 6. And so you'll see I did that on mine, and mine almost went all the way down like 1, 2, 3, 4. Then it was like 6, 5. So I guess I'm kind of crazy there. But then you highlight your top 3, and then you know that those are your values that are non-negotiable for you. That if those values are not going to be met, then that might not be the place that you need to go work, or that might not be the career you need to pursue. Big thing that those are on your paper, because if they don't have that, then that might not be a fulfilling workplace for you in the future. And then lastly, let's go ahead, and I saw a question and I like it. So I'm gonna pause, I see that question, I'm gonna do this one, and then I'm gonna come straight to that question. So lastly, we have preferred focus. So what you do in preferred focus, it basically pulls all of this together. So if you could choose to focus on 2 things, you mark those 2, and then I went ahead and labeled 4, but then you choose to focus on those 2 things and finding your job and your career. And I like the question that we had pop up in the chat box. It says, achievements mean nothing without someone to share them with and for others to be proud of you. Excellent. I think that is completely correct. And again, that would be a value for you as well, an interpersonal value, because some individuals I have worked with in the past, it's more all about their own internal achievement, not really as much of what their family has to say about that. But exactly, I would agree with you. Again, not everybody might, but achievements, again, this is a value of achievement being that internal sense of I did it. That external would be a little bit more of your family saying like, oh my gosh, like you did so great. That's still falling more under recognition. So good comment. Thank you for that comment in there. So once you get your map all filled out, this is what it looks like when it's finished. Then whenever you're finished with your assessment, you actually get something called a composite score. So on your test, so if you look at this on your MyPlan side, this is what yours will look like. So you have personality, interests, skills, values. This composite score down here at the bottom, that's a combination of all of the tests you've taken to give you ideas of careers that you might be interested in. Again, this is not telling you, hey, this is what you need to be when you grow up. But this is something that can give you ideas. That's literally what its purpose is. There's a couple things I like to point out here on MyPlan. On the settings, so say you went through this self-assessment gathering map and you went through your assessments and you were like, my interest test totally did not represent me. Say that you were like, yeah, I'm super artistic and social, and it gave you like conventional, unrealistic. And you're like, that did not fit me in the stinking slightest, Taylor. And I'll be like, hey, that's okay. So what you can do is you can click this little settings button right here, and you can actually alter the percentage and the weight that you give each assessment as it's populating how many different, the different careers that you might be interested in. Also, where you see this green arrow right here, you can actually change the level of education that you might be pursuing to 2-year, 4-year, every year, or like all years of education, depending on how long you want to be in school or how short you want to be in school. Or if you're even like straight out of high school and you're like, I just want to find something that might be fun, you can even do high school as well. So those are the type of things I like to point out on this composite score page. So then you can pick which ones you want to research and learn more about. So what we talked about today was personality, interest, skills, values, and then where to find your composite score and where that score is coming from. So next time what we're going to do is we're going to pick up right where we left off, and we're going to look at how to research the different careers that are suggested for us or anything you might be interested in. Whatever you might be interested in, I'm going to show you how to research it and find if it's a good match for you. After that, in our last time, we're actually going to have a really cool panel with someone from advising and transfer services with career services. And we're going to chat and find out about how all of this information impacts your future and how you can go and achieve those awesome career and educational goals. So now I want to open up the floor for questions and also pull this up for appointments. If you want to make an appointment with us to have your own individual interpretation, whatever you might need, but I'm opening the floor for questions. Hello, I am here. Also, don't forget to put your ID in the chat box if you have not yet. And then thank you. Thank y'all for having me. It was wonderful. If y'all have questions, please put them in the chat. Hello, Jenna. We're repping our Tuesday Blues Day today.
I know, we both are. I like it.
I do too. Alrighty.
I'm not seeing any questions.
I'm not either. Thanks for putting your ID. Definitely need those IDs. Alrighty, well then I'm good. Jenna, is there anything else any questions I can answer for you?
I don't think so. I think we're good on this one. Thank y'all all so much for coming.
Yes, thank y'all for being here. We look forward to seeing you in part 3.
Thank you, Taylor.
Thanks, Jenna.
Bye, everyone.